Hello and welcome to the 30k channel, a channel dedicated to games set in Horus Heresy. I'm your host, David Brains, and today we've got a little bit of a special. We have been joined by Alistair. Good morning, Alistair.
Morning.
G'day. Now, some of you may have recognised Alistair, White Scars.
Yep, famous.
Absolutely. He's also done a few Adeptus Titanicus game with Dan Porter. So Alistair lives in Birmingham. He's not too far away, and he had a great idea. He said, look, loads of people need to know how to play 30k. And a lot of those people don't necessarily watch the channel, and we were trying to get some more interest in the channel.
Absolutely.
So we thought we'd film a series of games between Alistair and I, Sons of Horus Mechanicum, an escalation league, and it's all about how to get into 30k, what books you need, and how to get started. Because some people just don't know how to get started, and I get emails all the time, how do I start? Oh, I don't know what I need to do. So this will be a really great guide. And Alistair, you're in the process of painting Sons of Horus?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. So these have been what I've been working on since the start of the year. I've got more than just these done. So we're filming about kind of March time now, start of March. So I've been kind of working away on Sons of Horus. So this is the first 500 points that I've finished.
Great.
So yeah, I kind of wanted to do something new because I've been doing obviously White Scars. I'm famous for White Scars.
You are, yeah.
So I wanted to do kind of something different. So there's lots of infantry. There's bikes, of course. There's bikes.
Of course.
But yeah, that's what I want to do then.
Brilliant. And the reason why we're not doing Marine on Marine, I appreciate the Heresy is all about the Marine on Marine and everything between the Emperor and Horus. There are other units available in the Horus Heresy. And being a Mechanicum player, I feel very special towards those. So I brought Mechanicum. I do have Iron Hands, but I just wanted to bring the Mechanicum just to showcase there are other factions available in the Heresy. There's obviously Solar and Militia.
Absolutely. Demons soon.
Demons soon. Oh, wow, I can't wait for Demons. But this is going to be a classic match-off, Mechanicum and Marines or Sons of Horus. So the first question that I get asked all the time is, how do I get into Horus Heresy?
Yes. So
the first thing you will need is, obviously, you know, Heresy started off with the 7th edition rulebook, and we all know this format, and obviously before 8th edition 40k, that's what the rulebook for both Heresy and 40k ran on. So that's the book you need. So, oh God, how do you explain it? It's so difficult. So Forge World came out with the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness rulebook, and that is essentially that for 30k.
Yeah, with a couple of kind of minor changes, just to kind of clarify a couple of things. They've changed a couple of the psychic powers as well. Yes,
there's a few subtle differences between 7th edition 40k and 30k now as we play it. I like to call it 7.5, I guess. It's kind of an advancement from the old 7th edition rulebook. But there's a few weapons that have different terminology.
Yes.
So there's a lot of the weapons you see in 40k now started off in 30k, but they've just evolved ever so slightly. But there's a different special rules section within there that explains a lot of the different extra features and a lot of extra special rules. So that's the book. So if you want to start 30k, you need to go buy this book. This is the book you need. You can start off with the 7th edition rulebook, but there's a few terminology in the books we're going to show you in a second that will come into play, and you need this book to decipher those rules. So I think they're about £30-ish.
45.
Oh, yeah. £45 available from Forge World. So that's the book you need. If you're going to get into 30k, buy that one straight away because that will help you out. What's next?
The red books. All the other red books.
The red books. There's quite a few red books. So we'll go through them. Now, if you are collecting a Space Marine army or a Legion army, you will need... Well, that's the wrong book. That's the Militia, the Solar book.
Yes.
My books are a little bit battered. I've had them quite a long time. But one is the army list. That just gives you all the rules for the tactical squads, the bikes, the land speeders, the javelins, rapier, contempt of dreadnoughts.
All the weirdness that you get in a 30k Space Marine army that you don't get in a 40k one.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is the core book you need if you are gonna collect Space Marines. That is the core book.
Absolutely,
and that gives you the majority of all the rules.
Yes, for Space Marines, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if you collect Sons of Horus like Alistair and you want rules for Horus, Abaddon, Reavers, whatever special units you've got.
And the Legion special rules as well, that takes what's in here and kind of puts a Sons of Horus flavour over the top of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the really key difference. In 40k, you had formations, and they kind of gave each army a different flavour or a different feel. The way that 30k approaches that is in Rites of War. So Rites of War is a very particular, I guess, set of rules that kind of stipulate...
And as well, every Legion has its own set of special rules.
Yeah.
It's a bit like if this is the kind of bread, this is the filling for the sandwich.
Absolutely.
So, every Legion, despite using the same Space Marine rules, plays incredibly differently thanks to these Legion rules.
Yeah, and so if you take a particular Rite of War, this book... Remember this one here. It gives the army that specific flavour. So you can get Rite of the Ancients. I think it's called Rite of the Ancients, where you can run an army entirely of Contemptor or any Dreadnought variant. There's a thing called Descent of Angels, I think it is, or Angel's Wrath, I think it's called, and that's where if you take purely, well not purely, but if you take more jump infantry units, they get specials like hit and run. You see a lot of Blood Angels play that.
Yep, absolutely.
It's very flavoursome. You can make an armoured column.
Yep, you can have two kinds of armoured lists. You can have an armoured list that's entirely tanks, or an armoured list that's lots of infantry in tanks.
Yeah.
So, and they'll play quite differently from each other.
Absolutely. And certain legions lend themselves to these particular Rite of Wars, which allows you to create a very alternative list. So you're not just creating 20 tactical squads, some vets, a praetor, and then a couple of tanks. You can really add a lot of flavour through the Rites of War.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is really key. So if you collect a Marine army, you will need those two books. And don't forget as well, in the Legion specific book, you get extra Rites of Wars. It's very particular.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that allows you to build a Legion at different dates in the Heresy, because the armies are evolving. As Horus is kind of conquering the galaxy and bringing different elements to his banner, the armies change, don't they?
Yes.
They kind of warp a little bit. They get some extra powers. They get access to different equipment. Yep. There's rules in the book for Ferrus, both pre and post his hammer.
Yep.
And obviously Petarabo gains, spoiler alert, Petarabo is gifted Forgebreaker from...
So Ferrus dies.
Yes.
Phoenix so Fulgrim.
That's it, sorry.
Takes the hammer, gives it to Petarabo.
Yeah, and there's rules for Petarabo with and without the hammer. So you can really play, as you read the books, stuff happens and the story evolves. And you can recreate those scenes throughout the go. So that is the amazing thing about Heresy.
I think someone described it really well when they described it as almost like a historical war game rather than a kind of more kind of 40k kind of game, because you pick an army that you kind of like the background of, and then you pick a certain point in that army's story, in their narrative, and then just expand out on it. So I think, I will go into it a little bit more later, but this is quite a late Heresy army. And that's kind of the theme that I've gone for, and so the rules really help me reflect that on the tabletop.
Absolutely. And don't forget, I would encourage anybody to collect Mechanicum. Sorry, I've got to plug them here. And if you want to collect Mechanicum, there is a book for this. Now, I haven't got the physical copy. I've got the digital version, which is on my phone. But there is a red book for the Mechanicum, which is great. And also, if you want to collect Solar Auxilia or Militia... Or Knights, there's a Knight list in here, so you can have an army completely of Knights, and there's special rules that govern those as well.
Yeah, I think if we talk about the Knight list just for a second, the Knight list in 40k is very much, these are the Knights, whereas the Knight list in 30k, you can give these different Knights different ranks. Yeah. So it's not just a Lancer Knight, it's a Lancer Knight that is a fast attack choice, that has special rules that reflect that, so you can really... with very few models, get a lot of flexibility. And again, it's that narrative, it's that story that you're telling.
Absolutely. And 30k players love this element of storytelling within the games that they play. And I think that's one thing that differentiates 40k from 30k.
Absolutely.
Not to take it away from 40k, because you've got your own lore and you've got your own stuff, which is great. But, I guess this is the origin of the game that we play, whether you play 40k, 30k. But this is where it all started. This is the fight between Horus and the Emperor, and I just think it's such an amazing story. It's giving me chills just thinking about it.
There's nearly 60 books now in the Horus Heresy series, so there's so much richness to dive into.
Yeah, and the thing that I love is if you play 40k now, you play Khan the Betrayer, but he started off Khan as like a sergeant, I think he was, and the 30k tells you about his story and how he became Khan the Betrayer in 40k, which you now play as 40k. So it's always that background story to all the units that you play, and there's loads of different versions. Like Mortarion, he started off as a loyalist Primarch, and then went through the change and all the stuff that happened there, and and there's the character Typhus, which is originally he was Typhon.
Yep.
Totally different model. He looks awesome now in 40k rather. Amazing work coming out of Games Workshop at the moment. But anyway, let's not go too much about it. If you go on for absolutely ages. So they're the books. Depending on what Legion you want, they're the particular books that you need. Now, if we talk about our forces, Alistair is Sons of Horus.
Yep. So I've always really loved the Chaos Space Marines in 40k.
Okay.
They were my first real love in kind of wargaming in 40k in general. And with 30k, I've always wanted to kind of recapture that kind of look and feel. And so obviously I've had my White Scars for a little bit, but now with the Sons of Horus, I really wanted to kind of explore that. So that's why I've gone for the bikes, because the Chaos Space Marine bikers, I always loved their narrative. And so I've kind of added skulls, and he's got kind of like a beast skull on the front of his bike, just to kind of, really get that. They're starting to become those Chaos Space Marine bikers.
Okay.
You're as we said, the narrative in 30k informs the narrative in 40k. So you can kind of start to see that early story here. And throughout the army, there's kind of skulls and stuff. So, like I said, it's that late heresy period army.
It's good, and equally, I've gone for Mechanicum. Now I have quite a large Mechanicum force. I have up to 3k, but in doing this between Alice and I've got a couple more units to paint, and so really motivate me to get some more units painted. And you're doing the same thing. You're painting sort of 500 blocks, aren't you?
I'm notoriously slow as a painter. I've got a back, so painting is really slow for me. So this will get me pushed to get an army done in half a year, which will be incredible for me, and I'm really excited about that.
Great stuff. And what Alice and I propose is we're going to do 500 points today. We're going to do 1,000 points, 1,500. Zone Mortalis game. We're going to go to 2k, 2.5, and 3k. And we would love it if you follow along with us. If you've just started Heresy, or you're looking to start, 500 points is super easy. If you're Mechanicum, it's 9 models. If you're Sons of Horus, there's a few more.
Yeah, about 15. So this is quite quick to paint up. Yeah. So that's what I kind of went for. And I think as well, with the way we're growing the games, we wanted to show all the different ways that you can play. 30k. So we're starting off here with a version of the game called Centurion. Now this is a fan-made version of the game, but the idea is there's no tanks. There's very limited access to any kind of vehicles. It's mostly kind of an infantry game. So we thought that would be really interesting for the first game. The second game, which is 1,000 points, we're going for the Scout rule set. Now this was produced for a specific event at Warhammer World. That's kind of the point in between Centurion and what we would call frontline games, which is kind of normal 30k. So again, we wanted to show that way of playing. The 1,500 point game is Zone Mortalis. Now that's kind of a game where you fight in spaceships and in underground complexes. So that's a really cool and interesting way of playing that completely changes the game. So we wanted to show that as well. And then as we kind of go up into the larger games, we'll be more conventional in our 30k games. But it just captures the whole variety of ways to play 30k.
Absolutely. A lot of people think when you play 30k, you need 3k straight away, and you don't. And this is a pure demonstration. You can have just as much fun at 500 points or 1,000 you can at 3k. I will say one thing. The only caveat to that is 3k is best at 2.5 to 3k because you get such a wide variety of units. You can start playing with the Primarchs, which is really cool. And if you're a Marine player, you get things like Spartans and a lot of the bigger tanks, which are awesome to play with.
I've got my eye on a Typhon, which is... So if you imagine a Vindicator in 40k, about 3 times more, but the gun is huge. It's amazing. I'm really excited for that to come out in the final game.
It will kill my Thalax outright in one shot, so we're not very keen on that one at all. But that'll come. I'll show you how to take a Typhon down.
Okay, all right. I'll show you how not to have that happen.
I've got the equipment to do the job, but we'll get onto that as we go on. So all I've gone for, we've been really, really restricted in what we've taken. My Majos is just a complete standard Majos. I've given him 2 upgrades. I've given him a mastercrafted melter gun, and I think that's all I've given him.
Yeah, I think he's pretty naked.
Pretty basic. And then my Thalax have no special upgrades, no special abilities, no melter bombs. They're just completely stock. And as you can see, my Thralls are toughness 5. with 3 wounds compared to toughness 4, 1 wound.
Yep.
That's why the force is very, very small. And my force is very particular. I've gone for a reductor, which allows me to have Thalax and vehicles. So I haven't gone for a lot of the larger monstrous creatures, which a lot of Mechanicum players go for, which I have done in the past. It's an amazing list. But
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I've been a bit stayed on this one, but you'll see those vehicles coming later in the games. And you've gone for quite a mix, really. Yeah,
so I wanted to kind of show off a different variety of units. So I've got the bikes in here. Again, as I discussed, I love the narrative of them, but I think they're really interesting in game. As well, I've gone for 2 units of veterans. So rather than normal tactical squads, they're veterans. So they're smaller units. You can have them in units of 5. And whereas David's Thalax, they're kind of naked. These guys have got plasma guns, combi plasmas, power weapons on the sergeants. So I think there's kind of a really interesting contrast there. And my Delegatus, who's my leader, is a fairly basic HQ choice. He doesn't even have an invulnerable save, so if he gets into combat, he might be in trouble, but he has got a power axe to try and dig himself out of that a little bit. So yeah, it's an interesting list, I think.
I mean, conversely as well, my HQ, he's quite tough. He's toughness 4, he's got 3 wounds, he's got 3 up armor, and he's got a 4-up invulnerable save, but he's absolutely terrible in combat. He's only got a power sword, which I know is fairly good against power armor, but I'm striking at low initiative, so you'll probably you're initiative one, but you're better in combat than I am. So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I've got quite shooty and I'm very manoeuvrable, so I have have a jetpack, which is kind of like what Tau having 40k. They can move, fire, and then thrust to get out of it, and so I've got a very mobile force. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the army plays out.
I guess as we're both fighting over a central objective, I guess we'll come into the mission in a minute, but as we're both fighting over a central objective, I think it will be interesting to see how we both play with that.
Definitely. So on that note, let's go to the mission that we've played and that we're about to play. We're playing on a 4x4, so 500 points, 4x4. You don't need a 6x4 for this. We're fighting over the cockpit of that crashed Thunderhawk.
So what's happened? So the battle that we're fighting is set during just before the Battle of Beta Garman. Now, the Battle of Beta Garman is basically the last big battle before the Siege of Terra, where Horus has sent all his forces in to capture Beta Garman, and this is kind of described as the gateway into Terra. And so as soon as he's captured that, he can then launch his assault on Terra. So the Loyalists, so they can't hold him at Beta Garman, but they can bleed him. So just before Horus launches his big invasion of Beta Garman, he sends a bunch of forces to kind of attack the areas around Beta Garman to draw Imperial forces away. And so this army represents one of those kind of attack forces that are raiding. And the particular world that we'll be fighting over for these series of battles is called Alpha Garman. Now, Alpha Garman is a Mechanicum mining world. It's covered in black sands. It's near its sun, so it's covered in solar panels. And this is its principal use, is drawing that power and then sending it out to the rest of the sector. So it's a really important world that the Mechanicum are protecting. So that's the setting, that's the battle. Now, in the opening stages of this conflict, a Thunderhawk has been shot down, crash landed.
Sad face.
It's got some secret technology in it, which we'll come to in a minute. Now, the Mechanicum, they've noticed it's been shot down. They want to go find it because they know there's some technology in it. So they've sent out a bunch of scout vehicles to find it, which they have. And so you're kind of on your way to kind of recover that. Sons of Horus, these are raiders. They've got a different ideology to maybe more kind of like Legion forces. They've been kind of sent out to attack. They've noticed it's shot down and they want to recover it. They want to kind of grab as much as possible out of this because they're pretty light on the ground. They're kind of they're cannibalizing as much as possible from the Loyalist technology. So that's the battle we're fighting. Dan Porter, co-host of the 30k channel, very kindly has written us a secret objective. So whoever claims the objective at the end of the game, they will get to open this envelope and get some kind of secret upgrade for their next game when we pay 1,000 points.
Now, Alistair and I have no idea what's in this envelope. Dan has done it secretly and you've passed it to each other at work. And here it is. So we don't know what's in there. But don't forget the mission. We're playing 5 turns. There is no night fighting. It is a custom mission. Because all we're doing is you've got to be within 3 inches of the cockpit at the end of the game. Now, if it is a draw, we're going to work on how many points we've destroyed. So if you've killed 500 points, I've only killed 3, then Alistair and the Sons of Horus will take the victory. And then we get to open the envelope and have whatever is inside. I have no idea whether it's extra points, a weapon upgrade, a characteristic upgrade. Have no idea. So that's what we're fighting for. It's quite important, and then that will carry on throughout the rest of the game.
Yes.
Excellent. So don't forget as well, I filmed a board build video for this game, for the board that we're fighting over today. This will be at the end of the video. And you guys are watching on YouTube, so most of the games that go out on the channel, on the website, have a board build video. So I build quite unique and different boards.
Oh, they look fantastic, man.
It's very kind. My rationale behind them is that I want the boards to be quite plain but interesting, and then let the models shine. You know, they're quite dull and matted for a reason, to let the models are the thing that we want to look at. So I really hope you enjoyed the board build video particularly. Alistair and I are now going to detail exactly what is in our lists, what equipment we've taken, and then we'll go to the beginning of turn 1.
Absolutely, yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Perfect. 500 points of Sons of Horus, led by a Delegatus. They are running the Pride of the Legion Rite of War, which lets me take veteran squads as troops. HQ choice is a Delegatus armed with power armor and a power axe. He has the immovable object warlord trait, which gives him it will not die and fearless. The 2 troops choices are 2 nearly identical 5-man veteran squads. Both have plasma guns, both sergeants have combi plasmas, 1 sergeant has a power axe and 1 has a power fist. Final choice for the Sons of Horus is a fast attack choice, and it's 4 outrider bikes with a sergeant. The sergeant has a power axe.
495 points in Mechanicum, using the war covenants of the Ordo Reductor. The army is using a particular force organisational chart called the Matrix of Ruin. The army is led by a Magos Reductor. The Archmagos Reductor's Warlord trait is Predictive Augury, which allows him and a unit he is attached to overwatch on a 5 or a 6. HQ is a Magos Reductor. He's equipped with a Power Axe, a Lucifex, and a Mechanicum Protectiva. He has taken an additional weapon of a melter gun, and that has been mastercrafted. Troops choice for the Ordo Reductor are 2 units of 4 Thalax, no upgrades, and they carry lightning guns. Alistair, we're deployed, ready to go.
Yes.
There's not a lot on the board. Well, 500 points, there's not going to be a lot on the board.
It feels quite sparse compared to some of the games I've played recently, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how, because everything becomes more important when there's less stuff.
Absolutely. Those armour saves and those to hit and to wound rolls are going to be absolutely crucial. And don't forget, I've only got, 9 models on the board.
Yeah.
But they've all got 3 wounds each.
I know.
So I've got 27 wounds and you've got, 5, 10... 14, 15 wounds.
16.
16?
Because the Delegatus has 2.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Bring it.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Now, Alistair, I won the roll off to go first. I let Alistair deploy first because I want him to come to me a little bit. And I'm not going to seize, funnily enough.
Okay, that makes sense.
That would be silly. I'm really looking forward to this game.
Me too.
Friendly handshake. Good luck to you.
Certainly a handshake.
Oh, that hurts. Let's get on with it. Sons of Horus going first?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Sons of Horus turn 1. Sons of Horus turn 1 movement phase. The bikes on the left flank have pushed up using their superior movement to put pressure on the flanks of the Mechanicum, get them to split their forces. The Delegatus and his squad in the middle have moved up towards the cockpit of the Thunderhawk, trying to claim that objective. On the right, a unit of veterans have moved up again to put some pressure on those Thalax, start getting some shots off. Sons of Horus turn 1 shooting phase. A fairly uneventful phase. Opening turns of the game, not much was going to happen. A single shot was fired by the veteran squad on the right at the Thalax. Embarrassingly, rolled a 2, missed. Meanwhile, in the centre of the board, the Delegatus' squad have pushed up with an impressive 5-inch run move, getting them really close to that objective. That's great news. The bikes have used their turbo boost move to move a full 12 inches and hide behind the rocks, ready to push up in later turns.
Mechanicum turn 1 movement. Not massive amounts, but the whole army has moved forward 6 inches. We're just trying to get into position. I might have a couple of shots off on the veterans over on the left-hand side of the flank. I'm a little bit worried about those bikes. They're very fast-moving, but they do need to come to me, so I've cautiously moved the Thalax over that small outcrop of rocks. The Majos Reductor is on his own because he doesn't have a jetpack, and in the shooting phase, or rather the assault phase, I plan on using the jetpacks of the Thalax and moving them closer to the Sons of Horus and to the cockpit of the Thunderhawk. Mechanicum turn 1 shooting phase. Only 2 shots from the Thalax squad on the left-hand side. They fired their lightning guns into the veteran Sons of Horus. Got 1 hit and 1 wound, but their power armor saved, so great news for them. Mechanicum turn 1 assault phase. The Thalax squad on the left-hand side activated their thrusters and moved forward 10 inches into the cover of the wreckage of that Thunderhawk. Hopefully we'll avoid the shooting from the Sons of Horus veterans in the next turn. The second Thalax squad got a massive 11 on their thrust move. They have moved into the oncoming path of the bikes, but we're confident we can weather their firepower with our high toughness and wounds. And then hopefully next turn we'll get a good shot off them with our lightning guns. And then the final act of the shooting phase, I should have mentioned this, the Majos ran forward 6 inches. So we've moved super close to the Thunderhawk, and we're looking forward to weathering the storm from the Sons of Horus.
Sons of Horus turn 2 movement. The veteran squad on the right hand side have pushed up to start putting some shots into the Thalax in front of them. That plasma gun's in range, which should hurt them more than the bolter last turn. On the other side of the battlefield, the bikes have raced forwards. If they're lucky, they'll make a charge and hit those Thalax really hard. In the middle of the battlefield, the Delegatus' unit have consolidated their control of the Thunderhawk cockpit and lined up some more shots into the Thalax. Sons of Horus turn 2 shooting phase. Fantastic opening salvo from the veteran squad on the right. They inflicted a mighty 4 wounds on the Thalax, killing one and wounding another. The Delegatus and his unit then opened fire on the Thalax in front of them, significantly worse than the squad on the right. They only inflicted a single wound. The bikes again opened up with everything they had at the Thalax. Again, no wounds caused, even with the Death Dealer special rule giving me +1 ballistic skill within 12 inches. Because the Thalax had lost 25% of their models this phase, they had to take a leadership test to see if they might run away or not. Thankfully for the Mechanicum, they passed and will be staying put. Sons of Horus turn 2 assault phase. Crashing forward, the bikes have charged into the Thalax. They fired all their guns in Overwatch and missed, fortunately. The Sons of Horus then made a mighty 10-inch charge, getting 2 bikes in base contact with the Thalax. That means there's 2 Hammer of Wrath hits, which unfortunately did nothing. The assault phase opens with initiative 4. That means the bikers get to attack. The Sergeant, however, doesn't, as he has a power axe attack, which makes him initiative 1. There were 9 attacks in total from the bikers. They hit 5 times, wounded only once, which the Thalax saved. Not a good start.
Striking at initiative 2, the Thalax were next to strike. There's 4 models, so 2 each. I got 8 attacks, 4 hits, caused 2 wounds on the bikers, but unfortunately their power armor held strong and no casualties were caused.
At initiative 1, the Sergeant swung with his power axe. A mighty 3 hits translated into only a single wound. As it's AP2, the Mechanicum don't get an armor save, but they did get their Feel No Pain. The Feel No Pain failed, so the wound was caused. This means the Sons of Horus won the combat by 1. However, because the Thalax is stubborn, they do not take any negative modifiers from losing assault. Therefore, they were able to take the leadership test on an 8, which they passed. The combat continues. End of turn 2 for the Sons of Horus. They're in a good position. Both veteran squads are putting a lot of pressure on the Mechanicum in the middle, and the bikes, whilst they didn't completely kill the Thalax, they have stopped their guns from shooting and have engaged them in assault.
Mechanicum turn 2 movement. The Thalax on the left-hand flank has advanced forward 6 inches, going in towards the Sons of Horus veterans. They're going to fire their lightning guns, hopefully drop 1 or 2, and then they might charge them, or they might use their thrust move to move them back into the cover of the Thunderhawk. The Majos Reductor on the right-hand side here has got closer to the bikes. His plan is to charge and put his power weapon to good use and try and cut down some of those bikers and support the Thalax in combat. So not loads going on this turn, but certainly a very pivotal shooting and combat phase coming up. Mechanicum turn 2 shooting phase. The shooting on the left-hand side was very unsuccessful. I missed with 2 of 3 shots into the veterans. I did roll a miss to wound, but thankfully the lightning gun has shred. I didn't get that all-important 6 for the rending shot, and Alistair made his armour save. Now that has made me think twice about charging them. We would like to have taken off at least 1 or 2 models to even the odds out, but I get 3 attacks on the charge. I'll make a decision a little bit later on. The Majos obviously couldn't fire because he's going to charge into the bikers, and then that takes us to the assault phase. Mechanicum turn 2 assault phase. The Archmagos made it into combat with the bikers with a 7-inch charge, which was fantastic. Over on the left here, I needed a 4-inch charge with the Thalax, and they got a 4-inch charge. It was just enough to clip the front base of the Sons of Horus. They did overwatch as I came in. None of the bolter runes, none of the bolter attacks hit or wound, so that's fantastic news. The plasma gunner then rolled a 1 to hit, which is obviously a gets hot roll, and failed his armor save, so killed the plasma gunner as we went in, so that's brilliant news. Combat between the Archmagos, the Thalax, and the Sons of Horus biker units.
At Initiative 4, the Sons of Horus bikers swung. They managed to get 6 attacks total. They hit 4 times, wounded twice, and killed the Thalax, crucially. That's good news.
Next to strike at Initiative 2 was the Thalax. There was 6 attacks, only 2 hit, and 1 wound was caused. But unfortunately, Alistair failed his save, reducing the bikers down by 1.
Striking at Initiative 1, the Sergeant with the Power Axe. Fantastic work from him. He managed to cause 2 wounds on the Thalax.
Also striking Initiative 1, the Archmagos with his power axe struck. There was 4 attacks as he charged, only 2 hits, 1 wound, which thankfully killed a Sons of Horus biker. The Thalax have lost the combat by 1, and which I need to take a leadership test. At the end of this combat, thankfully, both the Thalax and the Archmagos passed their leadership test, locking the bikers in combat. We would hope to finish that unit off in the next round.
Combat between the veterans and the other Thalax. At Initiative 4, 3 of the veterans swung with their weaponry. They managed 9 attacks total. They hit 8 times, caused 2 wounds, which caused 1 wound on the Thalax.
Striking Initiative 2, the Thalax had 6 attacks into the Sons of Horus veterans. I only hit 3 times, unfortunately, but caused 3 wounds, and thankfully they killed 2 of the Sons of Horus veterans.
At Initiative 1, it was the Sergeant's turn to move. He was able to move 3 inches towards the Thalax. However, he couldn't get in base contact. Now, he is not able to attack as he is not within base contact of an enemy model, and he is not within 2 inches of a friendly model in base contact. That's unfortunate news for the Sons of Horus, as that Power Fist could have done some real damage to those Thalax. The Sons of Horus lost the combat by 1. With a leadership of 9, that then became leadership 8. They passed with the roll of a 6. Combat continues.
End of turn 2 for the Mechanicum. Not a bad turn. I would have liked the Archmagos to do a little bit more in combat, but I think we might do it next turn. I'm a little bit worried about that second unit with the Delegatus perhaps getting into combat in the next turn, but I think they're just a touch away, so they might not make it, which will give me a bit of a reprieve, which is brilliant news. And then combat over here, really pleased about the Plasma Gunner blowing himself up on Overwatch, which was less attacks in combat, and the fact that that Power Fist couldn't swing has really saved my bacon here. So we're in a reasonable step. reasonable position. We need to keep the units alive now to consolidate onto the objective and take down those vets with the delegatus in the next few turns.
Sons of Horus turn 3 movement. As tempting as it is to get the powerful combat unit of the delegatus and the other veteran sergeant with a power axe into the Thalax, 30k is all about playing the mission. I need to keep that objective. So the Sons of Horus veterans in the centre have consolidated their hold on the cockpit. Sons of Horus turn 3 assault phase. No shooting phase this turn, as both Thalax are locked in combat. Starting with the combat on the right, the Sons of Horus veteran swung at the Thalax at initiative 4. Managed 3 hits with 3 attacks. A single wound, unfortunately they passed the save.
Striking initiative 2, the Thalax struck with 6 attacks, only managing 2 hits and 1 wound. And unfortunately for the Thalax, the Sons of Horus trooper made his save.
At initiative 1, the sergeant swung with his powerful power fist. 3 hits out of 3 attacks, which was great, followed by 2 wounds. Luckily for the Thalax, one of the Feel No Pain was passed on a roll of a 6, causing 1 wound. The Thalax, again thanks to being stubborn, were able to use their leadership 8, which was unmodified when they were taking their leadership test to see if they ran from assault. They passed. Combat continues. The Sons of Horus bikers in the centre continued the fight. The biker attacked with 2 attacks, hitting once, wounding once, causing a wound on the Thalax, but they passed their Feel No Pain, so no wounds caused.
Next to strike at initiative 2 was the Thalax. They had 6 attacks, 2 hits, and no wounds. Really, really terrible rolling.
At initiative 1, the sergeant swings, again doing brutal work to the Thalax, causing a mighty 2 wounds, killing one and putting a wound on another.
Also striking initiative 1 was the Magos Reductor. He had 3 attacks, hit twice, wounded once, killing the biker, which was brilliant news. At the end of the combat, the Thalax lost by 1. The Thalax failed their leadership test despite being stubborn and will fall back 7 inches towards the board edge. But the Magos held strong, passed his leadership test, and he will now tie up the sergeant in combat.
End of turn 3 for the Sons of Horus. It's been a good turn. If those Thalax fail their leadership test next turn, they could be off the board, which will significantly reduce the Mechanicum presence around a Thunderhawk. The sergeant is continuing his brave work, but might suffer once the Magos gets to attack him. I do hold the objective in the centre though, so that's good news for the Sons of Horus.
Mechanicum turn 3 movement phase. Unfortunately, those Thalax failed their leadership test and ran off the board. A very sad day for the Mechanicum. There was obviously no movement and no shooting, and we're straight into the assault phase. I am desperately hoping I can kill both of these units, and then we'll be in a really great position. Mechanicum turn 3 assault phase, striking initiative 4.
Sons of Horus veteran swung bravely, managing 2 hits and 2 wounds. The Mechanicum passed their saves.
Striking back at initiative 2, the Thalax went in with 6 attacks, had a really good roll to hit, hitting 4 times, which was brilliant news, but only causing 1 wound on the vet squad there, and unfortunately, Alistair made his save, so no casualties caused on the Sons of Horus veterans.
At initiative 1, the veteran sergeant struck with his power fist. 2 attacks, 2 misses. Disastrous. Neither side caused any wounds at all, so it's a drawn combat and no leadership tests are needed. Combat in the centre between the Mechanicum HQ and the bike. Biker sergeant and the Magos struck at the same time. Neither of them did any wounds. We had 2 hits from the biker sergeant and 2 wounds. 2 invulnerable saves were passed by the Magos. Magos then swung back with 2 hits from 3 attacks, but no wounds. Combat continues again as it's a draw.
End of turn 3 for the Mechanicum, and what a close combat there between the biker and the Majos Reductor. I was convinced I was going to pull him down this turn. I just needed one wound to go through and he would have been dead, as the Sergeant doesn't have an invulnerable save. So a little bit disappointed not to have done that. Over on the left hand flank here, I was pleased not to lose any Thalax to the Power Fist. That was really, really important. I am a little bit worried now because the Sons of Horus have captured the cockpit of that Thunderhawk. We might just have to survive the combat and let the Sons of Horus have the game. Still a few turns left to play, so let's see what happens.
Sons of Horus, turn 4 movement. Getting into the final 2 turns of the game now. Crucially, the Sons of Horus in the centre are still holding the objective. Hopefully they can keep that up for the rest of the game. No other movement, as both the bike and the other veteran squad are tied up in combat. Hopefully they can hold going into the Mechanicum turn 4. Sons of Horus, turn 4 assault phase. Again, no shooting, so we're straight into combat. Once more, the veterans swung at the Thalax, but their armour held.
Next to strike at initiative 2 were the Thalax. There were 6 attacks going into the Sons of Horus. I had a really great round this turn, so I hit 5 times, which is brilliant news. Wounded 3 times. But Alistair only failed 1 save, pulling down one of the veteran troopers. The Sergeant is left to strike at initiative 1 with his Power Fist. I'm not holding out much hope for that unit.
Sergeant swung with his Power Fist, taking the final wound off one of the Thalax. Both sides have dealt 1 wound this turn, making for another drawn combat going into the penultimate Mechanicum turn. Biker Sergeant in the centre of the table bravely took on the Magos in single combat. 3 attacks total, dealt a single wound to the Magos, which the invulnerable save unfortunately passed.
As you can see, the Magos has been left standing. I managed to strike the biker sergeant, hit twice, wounded once, and because it was AP2, managed to kill the sergeant in the biker squad, which is fantastic news. The Magos then consolidated 6 inches towards the Delegatus and the veteran squad towards the Thunderhawk cockpit. I wasn't sure what to do here because I know that Alistair will probably finish him off, but for the Mechanicum wise, that information is really, really important. We need to do everything we can. The Mechanicum have got loads of numbers of Thralls and Thalax and Magos in their ranks, so we can sacrifice the Sergeant here or the Magos to secure the objective. So let's see what happens.
End of Sons of Horus turn 4. The Sons are in a great position right now. They hold the cockpit with a full-strength veteran unit, packing 2 power axes, a combi plasma, and a plasma gun. This will be a tough nut for the Mechanicum to crack going into their penultimate turn.
Mechanicum turn 4 movement and shooting. The Magos has decided to move as close as he can to the veteran squad. My reasoning for this is that the Thalax are tied up over in combat over there. They might win the combat and they will try and make it round to the cockpit. But what I need to do is, if I can hold that unit up as much as possible and contest the objective, then we might stand a chance here. So in the shooting phase, the Magos shot his mastercrafted melter gun, killing one of the veterans, which was really, really great news. And his plan now would be to weather the Overwatch and charge the veteran unit. Mechanicum turn for assault phase. The Magos declared a charge against the veteran squad there. Alistair decided to fire the bolt pistols in the squad, which was crucial because he lost his plasma gun in the Overwatch in the last couple of rounds ago. So he's learned his lesson and he fired the bolt pistols in. Got 1 hit, but no wound on the Arch Magos, which was great news. The Magos then charged in with a 7-inch charge. That might be a stupid decision, but my reasoning is fairly sound, I think. And then over on the far end there, the 2 Thalax are in combat with the Sergeant from the veteran squad with a Power Fist. Combat on the far side here between the 2 Thalax and the veteran Sergeant with Power Fist went really well. The Thalax struck at initiative 2, managed 3 hits and 3 wounds. Unfortunately, Alistair failed 1 of those saves, so they won the combat. A little bit disappointed, and they only consolidated 1 inch. Could have done at least a 4 or a 5 to get closer to the cockpit and reinforce the Magos, but we've won the combat, which is great news. And now we'll go on to the combat between the Magos, the Delegatus, and the veteran squad. Combat here in the centre of the board for the control of the cockpit did not go in the Mechanicum's favour. Unfortunately, the 3 veterans struck first with their 9 attacks, dealing 7 hits and 4 wounds. And unfortunately, the 3 armour save on the Majos was not up to it, and I failed 2 of the armour saves, killing the Majos, which was really unfortunate. The Sons of Horus then consolidated 5 inches, still remaining in contact with the cockpit and eyeing up the Thalax in their next turn.
Sons of Horus, turn 5 shooting phase. The final turn for the Sons of Horus, so they haven't moved from their strong position holding the objective. They then opened fire with everything at the Thalax. Bit of a wet turn of shooting from them, dealing only a single wound with the plasma. Despite the sergeant firing the plasma part of his combi plasma, he missed.
Mechanicum turn 5 movement phase. This is the last turn of the game, and it's the only chance the Thalax will have to make an impact on this game. So what's happened here is the 2 Thalax have moved forward 6 inches. Their plan is to shoot the squad in front of them, maybe kill one of the veterans, and then they're going to use their thrust move, and I need to get a 6-inch thrust to bring them within 3 inches of the objective. That'll mean then that the Thalax contest the objective, and essentially the game will be a draw. However, Alistair and I have decided that if the game did go to a draw, it was the side that scored the most points, as in a certain squad's worth X amount of points. So we'll add those points up at the end of the game. So on that basis, if the Thalax do contest the objective, it's most likely that the Sons of Horus will win the game. But we're going to give it everything we've got and try and contest that objective. Mechanicum, turn 5 shooting phase. Really great round of shooting there from the Thalax. The 2 Thalax fired their lightning guns into the Delegatus and the Vet squad, killing the plasma gunner. Then the wound spilled over onto the Delegatus, who failed its lookout sir roll, and then put a wound on the Delegatus. So that was really great news. Unfortunately, because of the warlord trait on the Delegatus, he's actually fearless, which is a real shame because I would have liked to have the opportunity to make the unit run. And if they're falling back at the end of the game, then they don't count as scoring, which would have been really great. I would have taken him off the objective. But there we go. I'm not going to charge. I'm going to do my thrust move and see how close I can get to that cockpit. Mechanicum turn 5 assault phase. And what a manoeuvre that was. The Thalax rolled an 11 for their thrust move, which brought them close to the Vet squad and the Delegatus, but crucially within 3 inches of the objective. So we have contested the Thunderhawk, but now we're going to go back, tot up the points, and calculate the victor. Oh, that's it.
What a game.
That was a really good game. Who would have thought 500 points could be so much fun?
Yeah. Tense as well.
Very tense. As Alistair said at the beginning of the show, every last wound counts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the Thalax squad failing a leadership test and buggering off the board. That unit cost me the game.
Yeah, you could have really done with them. Definitely.
So going on to the scores then, because I'm sure you worked out who's won. So what we did is, Alice and I agreed that at the end of the game, if it was a draw, we both contested the objective, we would then work out points lost. So I managed to kill 280 points of Sons of Horus, which is brilliant.
I got 320 of yours, so just clinched it.
40 points.
Oh.
That, if I hadn't have passed that, I hadn't failed that leadership test,
absolutely.
those Thalax I would have won the game. But hey, and like you said, I probably would have thrown them into some shooting. So it was
with more of them in there, you never know what you could have done.
Exactly right. It was really tense. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I think it really showed me, particularly the Death Dealer special rule for the Sons of Horus, how they're able to get +1 ballistic skill when they're within 12 inches firing certain weapon types. Really showed the benefit of those, particularly on something that's twirling like these bikes.
Absolutely. The bikes do a really great job, and they're such superior movement.
Absolutely, yeah.
Quite a bit of firepower as well, the twin bolters.
Yeah. Well, with my White Scars, I use bikes with twin link plasma, so they fulfill quite a different role. They kind of come on and kill stuff quite quickly, whereas these guys, they're much more manoeuvrable. They're doing something slightly different, so I really, really enjoyed using them. The
key point to that unit as well is that they delayed the Thalax getting to the Delegatus and the Vet squad.
Yeah, and this is why I've brought them back, because they did a fantastic job of just holding up both your HQ choice and killing off one of the units of Thalax. It was great, and particularly the Sergeant with the Power Axe did work
He did a really good job. The Majos with also a power axe, he was terrible for so many turns. And he finally got it together towards the end and cut the sergeant down and moved on, but then just got cut down by the vets and the delegatus.
Yeah. I mean, like, so in that combat, it was just like, I just thought, I'll roll my normal veterans first, expecting the delegatus and the sergeant with the power axes to do the actual work.
Yeah.
And in the end, the veterans, just some normal veterans, hadn't even charged, did it. It was amazing.
And this is a really, really key point about this game. You know, we played some really basic rules. We didn't upgrade our characters very much. None of the Thalax had any particular special weapons. You know, as the game progresses, the Thalax going to have photon thrusters. So there are 60-inch range weapons, strength 6 AP2. They would have picked off the bikes way before they got there. So, you know, as the game develops, you'll see the Mechanicum evolving, and
absolutely,
and Space Marine characters can take some really awesome weapons.
You can kind of get to god levels of combat, you know, from some Space Marine characters, particularly if you start giving them stuff like Paragon Blade, which I imagine will really come into effect against your multi-wound Mechanicum stuff.
Absolutely. You know, a Praetor armed with digital lasers and
a Paragon Blade.
Paragon Blade is a very, very powerful thing.
Yes, So they'll end up with something like 6 attacks on the charge, re-rolling 1 miss.
Ooh.
It'll be fantastic. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm not. I'm looking forward to getting some more firepower on the table. But the really great thing, which I loved about this game, was, you know, we went all the way around that Thunderhawk, didn't we?
Yes.
So, yeah, a lot of games, bigger games in Heresy, they tend to be focused, particularly in a certain part of the battlefield. And there is a bit of manoeuvre, don't get me wrong, depending on what lists you fight. But this, I was really pleased that we managed to manoeuvre all the way around it. And it showed the power of the Thalax. That thrust move I got with the 11-inch really helped towards the end of the game. But
well, I think kind of at a smaller level, that additional level of manoeuvrability really just makes such a big difference, as kind of they showed, and also the bikes. Absolutely.
And a lot of stuff died on both sides, and there was only 40. I know it was our own kind of made up game, but you know, 40 points in at the end of the game was brilliant. And we had loads of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
It was good stuff. Good. Well, there is more to come. Alistair, tell us about what we've got in store.
So, the next game will be 1,000 points, and that will be a scout game. So that will be, there'll be more tanks, more vehicles. So I'm going to be increasing those veteran squads to 10-man veteran squads, giving them some combi weapons.
Right.
I might throw in a couple more tanks and some more vehicles as well. So I'm excited to kind of get them together.
Good stuff. Plans for the Mechanicum is I've got some vehicles. I might include 1 or 2 vehicles. But Alistair and I are talking to each other all the time about what we can include to try and make the game as balanced as possible.
Yeah. And also to kind of show off as many different unit types as possible as well.
Absolutely. Some special weapons on the Thalax to help with a bit more long-range firepower.
Yes.
They're really maneuverable, but that 18-inch lightning gun range is very restrictive. So yeah, the armies will develop. Now, one thing we've got to do is this envelope.
Yes. So Mr. Dan Porter, fellow presenter of the 30K channel, has prepared this.
Our AT presenter, go on.
I've won it, so this is the first time it's been opened. So here we go.
We have no idea what's in this envelope.
This could be like, something weird. Oh, such a weird photo of Dan.
Can't let you see that.
So here we go. The hatch blows with a dull metallic clang as the charges detonate. Your troops enter and sweep the interior of the downed Thunderhawk, giving the all-clear signal shortly after. You follow them in and make your way to the cockpit. 2 Astartes' corpses are slumped across the controls. The stench of their decaying bodies fills the small space with their noisome odour. Your eagerness for the prize, however, trumps your disgust, and you wrench the rancid corpses out of the way.
Jeez.
There, in the console, you see it. A control module slotted into the main panel blinks rhythmically with an amber light. It is powered still, and you can see the connection is still live to the remote system. You pull it, and the unit slides out. It is clearly designed to be a mobile unit too. You guess that the Thunderhawk was supposed to be part of a test for this system, but had been downed before the crew could carry it out. As you handle the device, a holoscreen displays showing you the firing routine. Harpy Control Terminal. The Harpy Control Terminal is a piece of war gear that can be assigned to any independent character in your army. As long as your character is in possession of the command terminal, they can utilise the Harpy functions listed below. Note that if more Harpies can be added to the network, additional functions may become available. If the independent character carrying the command terminal is slain in melee combat, the opposing player may take it and add it to their roster. If the independent character carrying the device is slain by shooting, roll a d6 at the end of the game. On a 4+, friendly troops locate the device and the device is retained by its current owner, Otherwise, the device is recovered by the opposing army and is added to their roster. So, the Harpy class micro-orbital is a multi-purpose device designed to support a small unit and convert actions. The devices can be seeded into orbit by small craft and controlled by ground personnel via a portable command terminal. The devices are undetectable by most standard augury devices, being both physically small and with very low power output. Targeting is also passive, relying on ground units to identify targets, which also increases its stealth capability. The effectiveness of the Harpy system increases with the number of units in orbit as a network of individual cogitators combine to provide additional functions. Even alone though, a single Harpy can provide a one-use kill strike capability using a small gamma burst missile that strike teams with limited firepower will find invaluable in the feed. Okay. So, a gamma burst missile is strength 2, AP 5, heavy 1, small blast, fleshbane, haywire, rend, barrage, and one use.
Jeez, okay, all right. So it's like some sort of experimental control module.
Yeah.
That can be used as an alternative weapon as well.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
it's
cool.
Pretty exciting.
I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought it might have been like a character buff or like a trait to apply to the army across the board, but that works really well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're looking forward to seeing that in the
looking forward to using that next game.
Oh God, I better bring some more Balax, haven't I?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it looks good.
Uh-huh.
Good stuff. So thanks, Dan, for doing that. Let's remind ourselves what Dan does for the channel. He is the presenter of Adeptus Titanicus. So if you haven't seen any of those games, please go back onto the library of YouTube and watch the Adeptus Titanicus games. Now, if you are a subscriber to the website, you will receive one Adeptus Titanicus game a month in addition to 4 HORUS Heresy games.
Yes.
You know, we would love you guys on YouTube to move over onto the website and really enjoy those additional content. And we've got army showcases coming up very, very soon. We've got more of this escalation type game, but for much bigger armies coming soon. And then obviously you've got your 3K games, your Zone Mortalis, your Challenge the Channel. And now we've started doing a big 6K aside game sort of every 2 or 3 months. They're quite hard to organise, so trying to do as many as I can, but well worth getting onto the website. But as I said, this set of games is designed to get you guys out there playing Heresy. It's a soft introduction to the rules and the game and getting to know the familiarity with the names of the units.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they're quite different, I think, to 40k.
And I think as well what we tried to do is kind of really show some of those mechanics in action.
Yeah, and you can see that the battlefields that the channel produces is very unique and very different to a lot of the stuff out there on YouTube. So hopefully you've appreciated the aesthetic, our armies, and the effort we've put into this game for you. Alistair, I know you're on Instagram, and we can follow your progress, can't we?
Yes, you can. Yeah, so I'll be posting kind of lots of updates as and when I finish off these units.
Brilliant.
My Instagram is Alistair McMillan. I'm sure you'll put it just here. So come follow me. I'm relatively new, so that's exciting.
Good stuff, yeah. And you can also follow the channel, which is at the 30k channel. And the hashtag for this series of games will be Tale of Two Gamers.
Okay.
So that's the hashtag we'll put on the end. So we'll try and link all of those photos that we put up. I have a few Mechanicum vehicles to paint, which I will get ready for the larger games coming forward. And Alistair has got tons of stuff to do. So
yes. Sorry, I've got a week off in April for it.
Yeah, a lot of my stuff's pre-painted, but I had to paint it earlier on because I would not have been able to done it in time. So I've got a lot going on. But we're really going to explore this more with Alistair than me because he's going through the process of selecting units and painting them as he goes. So you've done a really great job with the Sons of Horus.
Thank you.
They look great. Sons of Horus are very tricky to paint because of the colour green. It's not quite a salamander's green.
Yes.
It's an odd one to paint, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, in the end, I went for the Cabalite green by Games Workshop because I just really love that green colour. I think it kind of works. It's quite a bright green, whereas other people kind of go for maybe the more dull Sons of Horus. But I'm quite a bright painter, so I enjoyed that colour. The green and the gold and the black work really, really well together.
Yeah. The look of the Sons of Horus is fantastic. And I think you've got some Justarian coming as well, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So painting black has been a bit of a tricky thing for me. But previously I'd kind of learned to paint white, so I thought, how hard can black be? I think I've got my recipe, but I'm testing out a few more models just to see if it works. But yeah, excited to work on the Justarian as well. Great stuff. And the Justarian are fantastic. They got a rules update last year because originally they only had 1 wound and they were really high points for what they were. But now they're 2 wound. They are a serious contender for a Sons of Horus list. Yeah. They got the power axe and it's the black Justarian plate with the red shoulder pads and the gold trim.
They are one of the best looking Terminator units in the game, and
well, it kind of harks, I guess, in some ways harks back, but actually harks forward to the Black Legion,
absolutely.
who I just think are one of the coolest looking Chaos Space Marine forces.
Yeah, they are awesome, eh? Good stuff. All right, I really hope you've enjoyed this series again. You know, this is the first of 6 games we've got happening. We're going to try and get these out in a reasonable time frame, so you're not waiting a year later for the 3rd and 6th and final game. So we're going to expand our armies. We'll come back with 1,000 points. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too, man.
Good stuff. All right, guys, we will see you in the next game. Hello everyone, and welcome to this board build video for the game you've just watched between Alistair and I, Sons of Horus versus Mechanicum. Now, if you're watching on YouTube and you've seen a lot of the games that have previously been put out on the channel, you may not have seen a board build video, and it's something that I've started doing from 2019. So particularly if you're a subscriber to the website, in a bid to get more content out and extra value for money, I've started doing board build videos, which have gone down really, really well. And Alistair and I have been talking about doing sort of an intro to 30k, because there's a lot of people that are playing 40k at the moment that want to port over to 30k. And there are some very subtle differences, or there is now because of the 8th edition rules of 40k. So I just really wanted to demonstrate the difference between the way the channel does 30k and everything that goes into those games. They're not thrown together, they're quite planned and quite calculated, and a lot of thought goes into building the board. I'd like to think that the channel's quite well known for its boards, and I like to build boards a little bit differently. So I use a lot of natural stone and rock, and I use a lot of aquarium products, and that's purely to keep the cost down, because if I brought everything Games Workshop, I think the boards would look quite similar. And they wouldn't have that kind of feel that I think 30k has over 40k. It's 30k for me is quite raw. It's quite realistic, and that's what the channel strives to produce in its games. It's really awesome games on awesome battlefields with 2 really great guys. So in a bid to kind of tempt you from YouTube to move over to the website and get all these additional features and all these extra content, then we're sort of doing a bit of a teaser really, and that's why Alistair and I are doing this series to get you into 30k. And once the 30k bug has bitten and you like the aesthetic and you like everything that goes into it, then hopefully you'll port over into 30k, play a lot more games, and then hopefully subscribe to the channel. So I just really want to show you what goes into building these boards. Now, you've already seen the game. I'm filming this prior to the game between Alistair and I, so it's completely unbiased, and I just wanted to show you the thought process behind the board. So the mission, as you saw, we're fighting over a Thunderhawk gunship. The Sons of Horus have clipped the wing of the Thunderhawk, and it's crash landed on this planet. And in the area, there's a few little Mechanicum scouts, which I've got here. You'll see this later on in the game. And it's come across the Thunderhawk, and it's alerted to the Mechanicum based on the planet of where it is, and it's obviously crash landed, and the Sons of Horus and the Mechanicum are fighting over the information that's within the cockpit through the secret objective that Dan Porter has made for us. So to that end, let's start with a board build video. First of all, we need the Thunderhawk, which is the most important thing. Now, this obviously is on a 2x2 tile normally, but I've cut around it with a bandsaw and I've cut it out. This gives me a little bit more flexibility in how I build the boards. It's not restricted to one of 4 points or one of 6 points on a 6x4. So it's really important that the cockpit is central to the board. So all I did quickly was to let's put a little line over there, corner to corner, pop it there, and I did the same the other way. And all this does, it just makes it fair, because we're going to play Dawn of War, and it's just equal opportunity for the Sons of Horus or the Mechanicum to get to the cockpit. So the cockpit is bang centre of the board, and then we're going to build everything around. So the way I imagine this is the Thunderhawk has come in, its wings been clipped, and it's made an emergency or a crash landing into the field, and it would have ploughed up the ground as it's come, and then it's come to a stop, and that's where it's rested. So for me, a lot of the ground would have been torn up, so we're going to represent that by a load of slate and rock. I've got a box of slate and rock here. You can buy it from a garden centre. It's probably about, I can't remember how much I bought this for, it's probably about £10 for a bag or £5 for a bag, something like that. And what we'll do is we're going to build up a layer of this slate behind the Thunderhawk, and then we're going to cover it with like a black aggregate, which I bought from an aquatic shop. It's about £12 a bag, but it's absolutely fantastic. It doesn't damage the models, and it keeps the costs for the channel down, but produces a really realistic and kind of a matte finish to the board, which when you look at the models, they're quite bright. The Mechanicum I've painted are quite bright. The Sons of Horus are quite bright. So you've got green and red, which are really great opposing colours. Then you've got the black of the battlefield, and it's a really great contrast. And it's why the models show up so well on camera, instead of having blackboard, black models. You know, so it shows up really well. So first things first, I'm going to create the debris that's been churned up by the Thunderhawk crashing, and then hopefully you'll get an idea about what I'm after. So for me, that's about right. I've stayed within the confines of the wingspan because that's all that would get churned up as it's kind of ploughed through the ground. Now it looks really terrible at the moment, but don't forget, when I put this aggregate on top, it'll blend in. So there'll only be a few rocks that are taller that will just poke above the sand, and it'll give the illusion of the Thunderhawk just grinding through that terrain. So I think that's enough for me. Just a few handfuls, nothing crazy. Might just put a few little bits here. And I think that's enough, really. So the next thing now is we need some line of sight blocking terrain because it's quite an open battlefield. And for with that, I've brought loads of rocks from a garden centre. The rocks are about £2.50 or £3 each. So they're quite a unique sort of look. So I've got this really big rock, and what I want to do is I might put it over this side to create a bit of line of sight, make the board a little bit more interesting, sort of creates a little bit of choke points, but also gives cover for both armies. And again, I don't know where I deployed or where Alistair deployed. So he might have been on this side or I might be on this side. So I don't know. So I build the board as neutral as possible. So we've both got a little bit of terrain. The last thing either of us want is for a unit to be destroyed in the first turn. I mean, great for game terms, but it's not good for a battle report. So I want to try and give as much cover. But also, if you get down on the eye level of the table, the Thunderhawk takes up a huge amount of line of sight blocking, which is something we always forget when we play games. We assume that a model, because we can see the target and the originator of the shot, we think they can hit. But really, when you get line of sight, which it is in 30k, they actually can't. So it's really important that we put those line of sight blocking pieces in a board. So we've got a lovely piece over here. Now it does wobble a little bit, so we're going to stabilize that, and we're going to try and blend from the smoothness of the aggregate, which I'm going to put on top, into the rock. So I'm going to put some of this stuff under here just to keep it in position, but also just to blend it so the transition isn't so stark. So you don't go from super smooth stuff to some real big stuff. So we'll put some rock in there just to kind of blend it in a little bit. So not only does the stone just go right beneath the rock, it'll also extend a little bit. You know, you have to remember the wind. You know, if you see like in Egypt and all different parts of the world, the sand blows against a rock. Eventually, it chips away at the rock and it falls down. So, you know, you can imagine that this is, you know, this rock may have been a lot bigger thousands of years ago, but it's just been degraded by the stone, by the wind and the rock and the passage of time. And also as well, you know, when we create like a little bit of a spur like this, when we put the aggregate on top, it will create a bit of an uneven flow, which tries to make the battlefield as realistic as possible. And I promise you, when I put the aggregate on top, it will make a world of difference, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to put a few more rocks down. I'm going to put a few more little rocks to kind of accentuate their position, and then we'll be ready for the aggregate. I think that's as much as I want to go. I don't want to go too elaborate with this board because the more elaborate boards will come later as the series develops until we get sort of 2,000, 2.5, 3k. So super simple, and if you look at the cost of this board, the only most expensive thing on here is the Thunderhawk, and I think they're about £80 from Forge World. You know, if you don't have a Thunderhawk, you could use a Spartan. You know, you could be fighting over a Spartan wreckage, or if you've got a super heavy in your collection like a Fellblade or a Glaive, you can fight over that as well. So all you need is just a focal point. It could even be a building. You know, there could be some information left there by a scout team for later to be intercepted by an ally. Or it could be a prisoner that's hauled up in a building. It could be anything, but you need a reason for your game and an essential objective for the two forces to be fighting over. A lot of games in 30k and for 40k, I guess, just tend to be focused on annihilating the enemy, and that is great fun. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really tell a story. And the series of games that Alistair and I are producing over the next few months, they're all about this story, the narrative. Everyone goes on about narrative, and that's what we're trying to produce here, is a reason why the Mechanicum are playing the Sons of Horus, and we need a reason for each game. And I think that's what 30k does really, really well. It's got such an amazing history, such great stories and moments that happened in the Heresy. This is our humble attempt at kind of recreating some of those situations that may have happened. So if you, regards to the battlefield, if you look down now at any angle, you haven't got a clear line of sight to any part of the board. It's obscured, which is perfect, and that'll encourage both of the forces to kind of maneuver around each other and try and get the best position. You know, ultimately we've got to be 3 inches away from the cockpit, so this square or rectangular piece here, 3 inches away, and that gives a nice bubble for us to be fighting over. There's no point rushing there to begin with. It's all about kind of outmaneuvering each other and taking those opportunistic shots at each other and wearing each other down to then pounce on the objective at the end of the game. And so that's all the rock that I'm going to use today. I'm not going to use any other additional scenery. That's it. I was talking a little bit about the cost. Sorry, I deviated slightly. Cost of Thunderhawk, 80 quid. A Spartan's £100. A Glaive is what, 165, 170 pounds. These two rocks cost me £3.50. A bag of slate cost £10. And the aggregate from the aquarium shop cost $19.99. So, you know, if you've got a Spartan in your collection, this board costs, I don't know, less than £40. I know it's a pain to rebuild every time. You've got to hoover it all up, and it might not be best on your kitchen table. Your girlfriend might get a little bit annoyed. But if you've got a garage and you can build a board with some sides on, super easy. I built this in an afternoon. Cost me 20 quid, I think it was, or 30 quid for the materials. Painted it black, bomb, finished. So it works really well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this aggregate down. I haven't got a knife, so I'm going to have to just pierce it with my finger. There we go. I'm just going to be quite liberal with this, and we're just going to pour it over. We want to cover the black of the board, so I just tend to just pop it on anywhere on the board, and then we'll smooth it in with our hands. It's like being at the beach for the day. So that's one bag. I think we'll need 2 bags just to get a thick covering of it. We can start smoothing it out a little bit. Looks quite good. You can see how natural it looks. And what you can do is you can just put it over these rocks, feather it in, and just blend it all together. So blend this Thunderhawk in, because it would have churned up so much of the ground underneath it. That's looking good so far. Definitely going to need another bag. So I've got another bag down here. So that looks good. So we'll get the second bag. And again, we're going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to tip it over in areas that need bolstering a little bit. Definitely a low down here. It's a bit sparse. Great stuff. So all we're looking to do is just to cover everything in a nice even coating of this aggregate. I don't really know what to call it. I keep calling it aggregate, but I guess, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best word for it or not, but it's a word for it, I guess. Okay. Now that's a nice even coating. It does look a little bit boring at the moment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to dig the Thunderhawk out a little bit, so some more of the model is showing. And what I want to do is these rocks, you can't really see these rocks very well, so I'm just going to, it sounds silly, but I'm going to kind of massage the ground a little bit and bring those rocks out, just to show a bit of colour contrast. A bit here as well, it's quite, but you can see where I put it on thick, because it kind of creates a nice uneven battlefield. And you know, no battlefield is purely flat unless you're fighting on like a marble plateau or something like that, you know. There we go, that's better. Okay, cool, we're nearly there. Great stuff, and we can see at the back here all of the rock that's been churned up, so we'll give that bit of a massage, I guess. Make sure we can see the Mechanicum logos on the wings. Now the final touch. Now, before I go on to the final touch, if we were playing a game where perhaps the Thunderhawk has been there for years and they've sent like an exploratory team in and they're kind of, you know, digging the Thunderhawk out, I might be inclined to put some crates, maybe a crane. A crane would look awesome here, like it's trying to pull the wing back on or try and get to the guts of the Thunderhawk, or put some containers like a base camp. So you've got staff there that have been there for months kind of excavating this Thunderhawk. And so I'd build like a little encampment, maybe by a rock as like natural protection from the elements. So a small crater here with a canopy over, or some digging equipment, that sort of thing. And the Games Workshop range of models is fantastic for that. The Shadow War terrain, and they've brought out like a drilling rig and stuff. It all looks fantastic against the kind of the natural rock and sand. But this is purely a Thunderhawk has crashed and the two elements are racing to meet it. So there's not going to be any other additional scenery, so super simple. But what I want to do is I want to create a little bit more texture, because it's a little bit boring. So what I've got is I've got some more aggregate, again from the aquarium. And this stuff is as fine as sand, but this stuff I've got here, it's probably about 3 or 4 mil. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently kind of spray that over the rocky areas, and it just adds a little bit of extra texture, and it's a different colour as well. So you would get the fine stuff, the real big rock, and then you kind of get this texture as well. And what I tend to do with this is where units would naturally run, so like here, that's kind of like a natural path for me. I tend to leave that blank, and then I tend to use the aggregate to kind of accentuate those areas. I know it sounds silly, but the difference is quite noticeable. So I'm going to I'll put a lot round the rock formations rather than sort of in the way. And you can see it does make a difference. Not too much. You don't want to undo all of your hard work that you've done. Just a little bit, just to create a little contrast. Dab a little bit around. And for me, that's done. Super simple. It looks dark and a bit bland, but don't forget, we've got the real bright red of the Mechanicum, the deep sea green of the Sons of Horus, and because they're the feature of the game, they're the thing that we've come to see. And they'll show up really well in the contrast of the board. I'm really happy with that. Not much else to say. Don't forget, you know, this is an exclusive YouTube video, but most of the videos that go on the website, probably about 50% of them have a board build video. So all of the photos you see on Instagram, I do a board build videos for those, and we use lots of things like kitchen tiles, rock, stone, the Shadow War stuff. We use a range of buildings from from Unreal Wargaming Studios. A guy called Griff runs that. He does some amazing Gothic Forge World-esque style buildings, which I think are absolutely fantastic. But you'll see those as the game progresses between the Sons of Horus and Mechanicum. I really hope you found this interesting. I would love for you guys to go out, raid your local aquatic shop, raid B&Q, and build your own sort of natural type looking board. I promise you it's cheap and the effects are really, really great. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one.